Hey, how's it going? Ezekiel the Barber back with another episode for you guys. Thanks for tuning in to this channel. Today we have a pretty good episode for you guys today. Today's haircut is going to be a mid to high slight drop in the fade. Definitely a makeover haircut. Quite a long shot from where we're starting. If you're not already, be sure to subscribe, like, share. If you're interested in barbering content or you find this material interesting. Alright, so we're going to start with the 5-0. So you see the 5 zeros there. I'm using the Oster Octane Cordless Clipper. Now, the reason that I chose the 5-0 is the 5-0 has bigger teeth than the 6-0. As you go up on the zeros, those teeth kind of get smaller. So this allows me to kind of get the bulk of the hair off a lot faster without kind of having so many issues. Sometimes if you have thick hair or a lot of hair, it's hard for the 6-0 because the teeth are so small to actually grab or cut the hair. Now once all the hair is off, sort of like you see in that section that I just took the hair off, then it's safe to go back and use a 6-0 to get things that much more tighter. So that's kind of the system that I like to use. Now with setting this guideline, you see I'm kind of using that blade upside down. Now the reason for that is it's pretty much a direct cut, so it allows me to get in there without irritating the client. It cuts that hair off nice and easy, and as you can see, that 5-0 does a really good job in terms of getting things balded out pretty quick. However, some clients do like things a little balder, so of course, I'll show you techniques on what I use to do that. So, for the sake of getting the bulk off, this is what I'm doing. Now in this episode, kind of shows you what barbers go through sometimes. These clippers, they have those vibrations, which can definitely soothe the client or make them feel really comfortable. So sometimes when clients are in your chair, they just fall asleep. I mean, they can't really fight the forces of the comfort. If you have a really soft touch and the buzzing of the clippers, maybe some music or something going in the background, a lot of times it's a wrap, guys. Most of my clients just fall asleep. So of course, years in the barber game, you have to develop techniques that kind of help you still get through the haircut even though your clients might be falling asleep. I mean, I've had clients from kids to, young adults, older adults. I mean, it really doesn't matter. Sometimes clients get in your chair, they start feeling really comfortable, those eyes start getting heavy. I mean, it's almost like you have weights on your eyelids. So even though we're pretty much about 3 or 4 minutes into this haircut, it doesn't take long to start seeing the effects of the comfort. Alright, so basically I have a little hair left around the ear, so I always want to pull that ear down, pull it out of harm's way, and then clean and make sure that guideline is as clean as the rest of the guideline. So it's very important. Before I go to my next guideline, I like to make sure that my first guideline is just nice and clean. So in terms of creating or making really good fades, that's a really good rule of thumb to live by, is before you go to your next guideline, just make sure your number 1 guideline is clean. Everything's even. Alright, so everything looks pretty even. We're going to go ahead and go to our next guideline, which is the 3.5 metal. Now you could use a 3 guard, you could use a 3 with an open lever, a 3 with the closed lever. To me, it really doesn't matter. You still have to blend and fade the haircut in. So it's all preference. I like the 3 metal because it gets that hair out of there really fast. It sets a really clean guideline from the get. So that's why I like to use the metal guards to set my guidelines. As you can see here, this guy is already relaxed in total relaxation mode. So, I'm kind of getting through this haircut as best as I can. You really don't know what's gonna happen in the chair when your client's falling asleep. Sometimes they can jerk their head, sometimes their head could lean forwards or backwards. In this case, this young man's doing a really good job so far in keeping it together for me. So he's able to pretty much fall asleep without moving his head much. And I do use my offhand, as you can see my left hand kind of holding the top of his head just to kind of make sure I don't get too much rocking or anything, which would definitely destroy the haircut. So it's always interesting when your client falls asleep on you. You can never really know how the haircut's gonna go. You can never really anticipate when a client's gonna fall asleep on you and at what point, so. Now anytime my clients do fall asleep, I'll try to use my offhand to basically kind of keep their head in place as much as possible to kind of alleviate any rocking or any errors from the clipper, because one wrong move and it can definitely cost you. So there's definitely little tips and tricks that I like to use. Now to every barber or hairstylist, to each their own. I'm sure that everyone has their own tips or tricks that they use when the client's falling asleep. But you kind of just have to work with it, kind of go with the flow. Here I'm still using that 3.5 metal, just trying to get a clean guideline all the way around. So using the blow dryer to get any loose hair out of there. So basically I've set my first and second guideline. I like to use the brush because sometimes the comb won't get all of the loose hair off. So sometimes it's almost imperative that you have to use a brush, though I like to 90% of the time use a comb. Alright, so a little bit more hair there behind the ear. So just want to clean that up with that 5-0. So there it is there. So we'll go ahead and clean behind that ear spot that you see there. Just want to kind of make everything even before I go into my fading process. So pulling that ear back, keeping it out of the way of the blade, and then gently just cleaning up that area. Want to go over any abrasions or anything nice and smooth. You never want to cut them if they raise up or anything. In this case that was kind of flat, so it was a flat area, so pretty okay to go over it. So just kind of going and cleaning all the rest of the area around, just trying to make sure we have a really clean guideline. You always want to make sure that everything's as comfortable as possible for the client. In this case, it's so comfortable that it's basically putting him to sleep. So those eyelids, I'm sure at this point look like they have weights on them. Definitely. And good barbers, it won't really even faze you guys. You'll just continue on and keep at work. Just as I'm doing here, it shouldn't really faze you that much. Alright, so next up we're going with that OA. So that's known as the OA, which is also known as a half. So we're going to go up about a finger's width. So basically the width of your finger will go up about that amount. And we'll go all the way around. As you see me insinuating the drop in this fade, so I'm not going to go too high on that guideline. I'll keep that guideline pretty much consistent, even though I do basically have that drop in the fade. So we'll do that all the way around about a finger's width, even though we do have that graduation in the fade to where that guideline drops in the back and goes higher as we get to the front of his head. So now as you can see, that finger's width on that guideline, so not too high. Alright, so one of my go-tos for getting that half guard size out is the 000. So there is a line at the bottom. I'm not going to go too high into the guideline that we just set, so I'm going to attack right at that bottom line. And that helps erase that hard line going into the half. So we just use the OA, but my secret is to use that 000 right at the base of that guideline. If I went too high, I would basically take out the guideline that I set with the OA. So that's not what I'm looking to do. I'm just looking to attack that hard line right at the bottom. So you see that 000 is just fading it out nice and smooth. So my man's back to resting. We're trying to get through this fade as best as possible. So far, he seems to be doing really good. No jerking, no hard movements. I've had some really crazy experiences with clients when they fall asleep. I mean, their heads are all over the place. I've seen guys getting shaves, I mean, where they're snoring and the barber's just getting through the shave. So many different scenarios that we're faced with. So right here, I decided to go to a 1.5 metal to set my next guideline. Once again, I'm gonna go up about a finger's width. A little higher on this guideline. And then eventually, I'll go to maybe the 1 guard to erase that hard line. So if you can kind of see what's going on, I'll use a half, erase the bottom line with a 000, then I'll go to the 1.5 and then erase that bottom line with a 1 guard. So that's kind of techniques to use when fading with the metals. Still using that 1.5 metal all the way around just to keep everything even. As you see me going in different directions, just attempting to get the hairs that grow in every direction. Just want to, once again, create the cleanest guideline as possible. Sometimes if you don't do that, you won't get a clean guideline. Alright, so here I'm using the Andis Masters clipper. Have that lever all the way open, so that's going to give me the equivalent to a number 1. So I didn't have to basically go to just the metal guard. I like the clipper because I can get the 000, the half, and the 1 all in one. So in terms of fading, this is basically perfect. So that's what I'm doing here, is basically fading everything together. So wherever there are inconsistent areas where the guidelines don't seem as clean or transition as well, I'll take the opportunity with this clipper to be able to go over basically all 3 limbs, the 000, the half, and the 1. And if I need anything more than that, then I just slap on that guard, such as a 2 or a 3. Now the Andis Masters have always been one of my favorite clippers in terms of fading, so I really like how fades come out or look with this clipper. So back with that number 1, lever all the way open, just going up a little bit. Now Now, I'm not looking to erase any of the guidelines that I had previously set, just looking to make everything fade or transition better. So any inconsistent areas, once again, I'm just going over those areas. So with the 000, you can pretty much get anything close to bald. Now that one or that half definitely is not a bald look, so that's why you see me basically opening and closing that lever. Right now it's a triple, halfway, that's a half, all the way open, that's a 1. So I'll attempt to erase these hard lines at the bottom there, starting with that lever all the way open, and I'll attack right at that line. Pulling that ear back out of harm's way, and we should be good to cut. As you see me, not going too high, just literally attacking the hard line, the weight that I want to transition back. Once again, this clipper or clippers with levers are basically perfect for that. Now, it's always a struggle trying to cut hair when your client's falling asleep, the head's nodding or what have you. So far, this young man's doing pretty good. We're only about 16 minutes into this haircut, but it's definitely gonna get real testy. So here I'm using that 0 guard, which is basically a half. Technically, if I just wanted to go halfway right there, it would be the same thing. But if I close the guard all the way up with the half on there, that's a half. But if I took the guard off and opened the clipper halfway, it's still a half. So in this case, I just chose to use a half guard in that area. So there's so many different ways that you can go. So there's really no right or wrong way, as long as everything fades and you're going through the system, you know, from 0 up to whatever guard you're doing, you should be pretty good in pretty good shape to put out a pretty good fade, I think. You still have to work everything out. You know, cutting hair is a lot like life, so nothing's gonna be perfect or set in. You have to make it as beautiful as you want it to be. So you have complete control as a barber or hairstylist. So here, just working everything out. Once again, just attempting to make everything a smooth transition. The more experience that you have with cutting hair, the more you'll know exactly what length you need to go to. Open lever, close lever, half, to basically create that fade that you're looking for. So, young man is pretty much totally relaxed at this point. We're gonna start working on that top. So the fade's coming together pretty good. A lot of times, if everything's looking good in the fade area, I'll just go ahead and start on the top and then go back to the fade to eventually bring the whole cut together at the end. So right now, he's looking to cut quite a bit off the top. So I like to use water to kind of help keep the hair together. Allows me to see those guidelines that are being cut a lot easier. So I have the clipper over comb. I want to take off a little bit of that bulk before I get into the top cut, because I know that most of this hair is coming off anyways. He's pretty much doing a comb over, so his hair doesn't need to be as long as the slick back that he had going on. So he just had all of his hair going to the back, which definitely requires that hair to be a lot longer. So since we're just doing a comb over, all the hair on the sides and the back, all this stuff is out of here. So I just chose to clipper over comb that, kind of form that haircut in. I like to put that comb in pull out, it allows me to kind of gauge how much hair is being cut. So I like this technique for areas such as this that has a lot of bulk and you just need to kind of get a bunch of hair off really quick. Clipper over comb is definitely one of the better techniques to go to. As you can see, that hair is coming off really fast. And there is really no guard big enough to get this hair, so that's why clipper over comb is pretty much another go-to for issues like this. And as you can see, those Andis masters are pretty much having no problem getting through that hair. So definitely a really good clipper. Gives you a chance to kind of see the review on this clipper, how it does. Besides the loud noise, overall I give this an A+, but the clipper is very loud, so I take a few points away for that. Alright, so you can see that fade kind of popping out more, and some of that hair is gone. Once I get enough hair off to basically take care of the rest of the job with the shears, then I'll do that. Right now there is still a lot of bulk in that hair that I wanted to get off. As you see me with the clipper over comb, I put the comb in and then I pull out. Definitely gauge how much hair I want to cut, because you can definitely cut more hair than you want to sometimes, so you always have to be careful with this approach. Alright, so using that blow dryer to get some of that loose hair out of there, see what's been cut, what hasn't been cut. My man waking up a little bit there. Yeah, it's getting him, man. So the haircut definitely will add that dimension of relaxation, if I may. So now it's time to start seeing how much he wants to take off the top. So it's shear time. So you are in the cut with Ezekiel the Barber. Appreciate you guys for tapping in with me today. So as we gauge to see how much he wants to cut off, I kind of like to lift my comb up. Once they tell me where they want to be, everything else is out of there. So it looks like he wants to cut quite a bit off. And I'll do it a few times just to make sure he's sure, just to kind of talk over it, see what his wishes are, and see kind of where I think, you know, he might want to be as well. So I like to kind of help out just to make sure that the cut's going to work for what they want. Sometimes they may say, take it here, but if, you know, the style requires for it to be a little longer, then you might want to suggest that. So we got a big chunk out of there. My man's like, wow, that was a lot. So we'll see how this goes. Never know until the end. So now it's time to get all the rest of the hair the same length as that first guideline that we just set. So I'll use a portion of the guideline, a portion of the hair that hasn't been cut, bring that together, and then I'll make my way around the haircut, if that makes sense. So there it is. So I'll always take a portion that I just cut, a portion that hasn't been cut, and that's how you follow the guideline all the way around. Now, whenever it comes to the shears, it's not a guard, so it's not going to cut everything in a uniform length. So you have to definitely kind of go over your work a few times just to make sure that all the hair is as even as possible. You're not going to be perfect. But I like to go over things a few times just to make sure that everything is near the same length or appears the same length. Now, safety is always first. As you see, I have those shears always pointing away from the client whenever I'm not using them to cut the client, which is very important. So the way that I have those shears positioned, always away unless I'm cutting that hair. So as you see, at all times, it's positioned away from the client. So you're never looking to harm or injure anyone. You definitely always want to make sure that you're using the right techniques to ensure that they're never pretty much in harm's way. So as you see, my shears always, whenever I'm not using them, are pointed away from the client, even though they're in my hand. Very important. All right, you see me going over those guidelines, just making sure everything is that much more even. Try to give you a better angle here. So I'll grab a portion of the hair that's been cut, that hasn't, and then we'll blend that together. So that's the guideline. Now, essentially, you're basically just connecting the dots. I like to spray a little bit more water, comb over everything a little bit more, double, triple, sometimes even quadruple check my work just to make sure everything's even. Now his hair naturally flows to the left, so a lot of times whenever I'm doing my comb overs, I like to use the direction of the hair that the hair naturally likes to flow to. In this case, it's flowing to the left. So I'm forming his comb over to the left. Now there are certain hairs that just want to go whatever direction they want to go, so you almost have to just kind of work with those hairs and work them into the haircut. The really good barbers or hair stylists definitely know how to do this. The more experience you get, the easier it gets for you. So it's just one of those things where you just have to get those hours or those haircuts or that experience under your belt. As you see here, I'm just combing the hair down that's forming where he wants his hard part. So he wanted to go for a hard part. So I spray water to make that separation, kind of see if that's the area that he wants his hard part. This is kind of what we're starting with. So you are in the cut with Ezekiel the Barber. This is the progress so far. So quite a bit of difference from where we started. So in this case, I decided to go to that number 2 guard just to get a little bit more of that bulk going into the top of his haircut. So sometimes I like to do the fade, then jump to the top, and then blend the sides together kind of after. So everything's a process. And that's basically what I did this time. I did the fade, I did the length on the top. Now it's time for me to blend the sides or the mid to high sides into that top. So we've already done the fade, everything lower. The only thing left to do is really blend that sides, the mid to high sides into the top. So we've done everything lower. Now, the thing about cutting hair is whenever you go through your system, sometimes you'll go all the way using, whatever system you have, say, 1, 2, 3. And sometimes when you go through that system, some areas, say in the 1 or the 2 range or wherever you set that 3, it may not be as clean. So you'll have to go back over it with the 3 or with that 2 or with that number 1 that you used in that region. So cutting hair, you'll set your guidelines, but a lot of times you'll have to go back and use certain guards that you used, for certain guidelines just to make things a lot cleaner and smoother. So cutting hair is definitely hair art. going over my steps, areas that I know I need to use that half, or I think that half will work it out, I'm going there. So just chiseling at that fade, making things as smooth as possible. As we kind of bring this fade to life, you see that transitions getting a lot smoother. Love the Andis Masters clipper, definitely creates a really smooth blend. Surprisingly, this client, though, you know, he had his moments where he just couldn't fight the forces of falling asleep, definitely didn't do too bad. I've had clients, man, where they're jerking, rocking. I mean, they just can't hold it together. So really hard haircuts to do for barbers when your clients are falling asleep, but you only really have so much time. So as you see me kind of cutting, making haste with the cut, definitely obstacles and everything, and your client falling asleep or getting super relaxed is definitely one of them. Alright, so now we're gonna start with the Babyliss trimmers. So we're gonna start doing some lineup work. We're getting a lot closer. So he wants a hard part, we're gonna use that. I like the Babyliss trimmers because they have really long teeth. So they can basically cut through all types of hair and still get that really clean cut. So that is what I do admire about these clippers. And they are cordless, which definitely adds a huge benefit to why I like these clippers. And I'm a Raider fan, so I love the silver and black. So I definitely love everything about this clipper. Alright, so we're putting that hard part in there. I like to cut skinny as much as possible, work off their natural hair. As you see me kind of getting in there. You never want to put too big of a line in there. Always want to cut real skinny. Comb or brush the hair away just to see, you know, what that line looks like. You can always adjust it after, you know, if you want to go a little wider, but you have to definitely have a really still hand. So here, just asking him to put his head down a little bit as I attempt to put his line up in there. Now, some things always seem to come at the most inopportune times, but you still have to make do and do what you have to do, take advantage of the situation, get the job done. You don't have so much time. You know, you have clients waiting or what have you. In this case, my man is pretty much out. As you see me using my offhand to kind of catapult and make sure that his head doesn't rock or anything, because one bad move and, you know, the lineup can mess the whole haircut up. So all the progress that we've come to, if he jerked or moved his head, that kind of jacked up that lineup, which definitely, trust me, has happened. So you always want to definitely be cautious of that. He seems to be holding it together pretty good, even though he's pretty much asleep. So good job there. I can imagine how hard that would be to do. As you see me kind of cleaning up around the eyebrow area. Oh, there's a little rock there. So you see me using my offhand to make sure that head doesn't move too far or fluctuate. Because if it just drops, ooh, it's all bad. But guess what? I'll still want to get paid. He won't want to be too far fond of paying me after that. So, you always want to kind of keep things in good fashion. Use whatever techniques that you have to use to keep your client from nodding their head a lot. Which, oh, there's one right there. That could have cost me possibly. I don't know. So still using those trimmers ever since everything was bald. I'll go over all my work. So basically here I'm just using those fabulous trimmers to make sure that every area where I wanted it to be bald is nice and bald, super bald. Now if I wanted it to take, if I wanted to take this a step further, I could use the shaver or a razor, whatever the preference of the client. In this case, usually he just is satisfied with the clipper. So we basically did what we normally do. The cleanup work definitely is critical in making sure that finished product is at least passing. Make sure you at least get a passing grade there. So cleanup is always big. Alright, so we're going to work on the other side, the opposite side of that lineup. His wishes are for me not to pretty much, go too far into his lineup. Some people like to cut the widow's peak, some people like to keep it. I always like to ask my clients, see what their wishes are on it. So his wishes are to cut around it, so just lining up around that widow's peak. And just looking to keep everything as natural as possible but clean. So meaning not looking to construct my own type of lineup, but looking to go more or less off of his natural lineup. Those are pretty much the two different ways that I like to do a lineup. Either they say no lineup at all, or can you just line it up but keep it natural? Oh, there's a little bob there that could have cost me, as you guys see. Oh, there's another one. So it could definitely get critical. Barbers have to definitely really be cautious and kind of handy with the clippers, if you know what I mean there. Things can get hectic. Yes, sir, brother. I see you. Things can definitely get hectic. So as you see me using my offhand just to kind of help him out a little bit, I know it gets hard when you're falling asleep to keep your head up. So we are approaching the end of this haircut. So here I'm just adding the finishing touches. Whatever I do on the left, I like to do on the right side and vice versa. So now you see me using my offhand just to kind of keep his head in place, just in case it rocks forward or backwards, such as that right there. So when you're doing a lineup, I mean, any wrong move can be very critical. So these are kind of tricks that you learn along the way. Alright, so the fade looks pretty good. We've kind of started our comb over. There's a little hair still kind of on the sides that goes into the top that I want to kind of blend and kind of make sure it goes in a lot smoother. You see my man waking up here to his new look. So basically on this process, I just like to look over everything. If there's any dark areas that may seem inconsistent to me, my number one objective is to make sure that everything, flows, everything's consistent, everything has a nice fade. So here it may not seem like that I'm getting hairs off, but I'm definitely making that blend a little better in that area. So it's very critical that you kind of go over all of your steps just to kind of ensure that the haircut is that much more clean for your client. In a barbershop, you only have so long. Normally, I like to set hour appointments, even though it takes me about 35 to 45 minutes to do an average haircut. And once again, just going over all of my steps, putting those guards in, whatever regions that I use certain guards in. I just go back over that area to make sure that everything is even, everything appears even. And a little artwork for you all. You are in the cut with Ezekiel the Barber and this young man, so definitely appreciate you all for stopping by with us today. Still just adding those finishing touches for you guys. Change it up, different little artwork. My man still relaxed. Back to the real life action. So just adding a little clipper over comb. I like to use this thicker comb, which this might be equivalent to like a number 2 or 3 guard, so it kind of doesn't allow you to mess up or create any bald spots. So that's why I like to use this as my go-to comb. Blending those sides into the top. You see those little hairs coming out of there. Chiseling at the haircut, just attempting to make everything really smooth. Now this area is a cowlick area. A lot of people have trouble in this area, so I like to kind of form it to the haircut. The problem with this area is if you leave it too long, it'll stick out. If you cut it too short, it'll also stick out. So you almost have to just cut that perfect. Oh, another pretty good nod. So the struggle is definitely real. When you're a barber, your client's falling asleep. I mean, you still have to basically create perfection. When they wake up, they want to see a clean cut, not a tragedy. So I appreciate this thicker comb for allowing me to be able to, still cut the hair without having to worry about putting bald spots in his hair during the clipper over comb process, in which you can certainly do with a thinner comb. So the struggle is real, as you can see. So you must carry on, you must continue to get the job done. So as a barber, you definitely have to have your techniques to help you get through certain haircuts. So here, just using a wide space comb, that's gonna allow me to get those waves. And then I use this Red One product. He likes pretty much a dry look, so Red One Creative Fiber Wax I like to use. So you see me putting the product in, combing it in. I like the wide tooth comb because it kind of mimics just using your fingers, so it'll give you that natural wavy look. And then we'll just comb everything over. So we have the product in, just put it in a little bit more, evenly disperse it throughout the hair, and then just use the comb to comb it in the desired direction or style that you're looking for. Sometimes you may also use a little bit of water to help this styling process. Alright, so we're just doing a comb over. So this is how to create that comb over look. That's why they call it a comb over. Just literally combing it over. Shout out to this young man for allowing me to demonstrate this haircut. Adding that water. Sometimes it helps set the hair in place, such as that. Just add a little volume. Alright. So this is pretty much the fade all the way around. This is this young man's new look. You're in the cut with Ezekiel the Barber once again, and this young man. So thanks again for tuning in. If you've liked this video, please share, like, subscribe if you're not already. Definitely plan to give you all a lot more different style of haircuts and just barbering information in general, so you don't want to miss that. Right. laser-ing in where his hard part is, so just making sure things are that much cleaner. Not looking to go super thick, so I'm cutting real skinny. You don't see that blade fluctuating a whole lot, so it's a real skinny cut. Just want a real nice thin line in there as much as possible. And as it says there, just adding the finishing touches. So in areas that, you know, he was looking for it to be balded out, I'm just going back over those areas with the clippers. Just making sure all of my work is even, everything is clean, any hairs that are there that should not be there. So definitely a critical part in the cut to make sure that everything is clean as possible. So double, triple, quadruple checking my work. So that's what we started with, guys. This is how things were going. Definitely had to get my man hooked up. This is how things are currently going in the cut. So this young man's ready to go with his new look. Yes, sir. And we have survived, even through the sleep, even through weighted eyes, the comfort of the clipper. Everything seems to have come out pretty good for this young man, so I'm always happy about that. So here he really wanted to take things a little tighter, so we're just gonna use the wall shaver to just really bald those lower areas out and kind of really give him that skin fade. Alright. Now, he just does it pretty much on the side. I do have clients that use this all the way around. So it's pretty much a preference thing when it comes to the shavers. Some people like to use razors, no shaver. All right, so got the mirror back. My man's ready to step back into the world. Right. All right, so thanks for stopping in with us today. This is pretty much the end of today's cut. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Until next time, take care.